Morning, everybody.
Hello. We're on week 3
Mm-hmm.
of this set of videos, and we've got several things to talk about that we've been dealing with the
Got
last
some
week.
notes.
Things that we've been working on here at home, and things we've been helping other people talk about. And I have a few housekeeping notes. I have random people that send me friend requests on Facebook to be put on one of the groups, but I don't always know who the person is or where they came from. So if you want to be added to the group, please send me a message so that I know where you came from, and
So he doesn't add some weirdo to the group.
so I don't. So I don't get somebody posting about downloading new movies that are in the movie theater right now.
Yeah, that's craziness. Oh, people. They would just spend all that energy doing something like honest, then the world would be a better place. So that you've got that, and people are asking, how do we get our husbands involved? Honestly, show them these videos. I would sit down. If you're having a hard time getting them to do some of the reading, which I'm hoping that watching these videos and seeing both of us interact and having both of us talk helps that process, then I would say you just need to sit down and watch the videos together and talk about them together. And if you can't get them to do the reading, which is really sad, because honestly, guys, it's like 2 pages.
Yeah.
And then there's audios. It's not like we made it a book length for you guys.
No.
This program is awesome. And it's helped a lot of couples. It's helped a lot of couples really achieve like what they want with their marriage, and it's helped a lot of struggling couples like get to a place where they could communicate a lot better. And so, really, it's not that long. So if you want your marriage to really be awesome, you gotta put the time in. It's really, we're talking about like maybe 10-15 minutes of reading, maybe. If you're a speed reader, like 2 minutes.
And it helps identify what the problem is.
It does. It totally helps identify that. And then so that kind of goes into one of the things that we were going to talk about today. Well, actually, a few things. A few things kind of lead into each other. So we have one couple that's really struggling with believing in the other person. Mm-hmm. Well, actually, we have a few couples like that. I think that so much of what we deal with the couples that are struggling, it's all about like one person doesn't believe that the other person can do it, and maybe there's good reason for that. You know, I think there's a lot about like owning up to your own shortcomings. If your partner is like, dude, I don't trust you, or this has been happening over and over.
Yeah, and we get couples where one person's not doing a whole lot. They might think they're doing a whole lot, but they're not, and then they get defensive and say, I can't believe it. I think I'm not going to do anything, but I was thinking about doing something.
Yeah, and I think that really, when you're in that building trust place, and you have to build trust, like if you've not, and this goes for men or women, it doesn't matter which side we're talking about here. If you have broken your partner's trust on a regular basis by letting them down, you really have to own up to it and be honest with yourself. And it doesn't have to be like a 20-minute, oh, I suck fest at all. But it definitely needs to be a, hey, I let you down, and I'm sorry I let you down. And I think that...
and then show that you're having a plan to fix it.
Yes, that you definitely, that you're on it, that you realize that this is maybe a weakness of yours. And because it's really easy, I think, for us to get frustrated about our partner's weaknesses. But when our partner knows that it's a weakness, then it's so much easier to discuss it. And so then when you know about it, you have to like be able to be honest about it. Mm-hmm. Don't you think, and like talk about it. And there was a guy that said that told you that if she had pointed it out, then I would be more mad.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think that you have to sort of, you gotta check your ego at the door when it comes to sort of working with each other. And I think it's important to figure out like where it all went wrong. Like at what point did you go from checking your ego at the door and loving each other to not? So you can fix that spot.
Yeah, I remember because I said I always have to ask when I'm hearing something that I don't necessarily like to hear. I have to ask myself, does she have a point? And if
Well, same here.
and you have to ask that. And if there is a point, and you recognize that they do have a point, and it actually comes from somewhere legitimate, then you have to like
Be humble.
yeah. Because I
We have
talked to
this hymn at
somebody
church.
that
It's
said,
called
well,
"Be Thou Humble."
well, because the person I
It's a tough
talked to,
song.
I said, do they have a point? It's like, that would make me even more mad, and I realized they have a point.
Yeah.
It's like, well, then,
And so you have to sort of step back and figure out, why are you mad about that? Like, nobody likes to be wrong about themselves, but I would much rather be wrong about myself than be walking around like Mrs. Big Shot thinking that I wasn't and then looking stupid. I guess that, like, looking stupid is worse to me than feeling wrong about myself. I don't know. That's just me, though. You know, I think that it's about like sort of being honest with each other, and this is the person you should be able to be honest and raw with. You should be able to like say, I screwed up. I really can't figure this out. Help me out. What do you suggest? You know, so if you're really trying to build trust and you're the one that's fallen down on the job, then you need to say, honey, I really want to figure this out. I realize you don't trust me for anything. How do I figure this out? Will you help me? And then your job is to say, all right, well then it might not be fun to help you. And it might not be, because that might mean that you need to do check-ins daily. Like, okay, tell me what you got done. And then that means if you're the one that's sort of trying to trust again, you have to find ways to trust. You have to be able to look at the small pieces and go, oh, well, he didn't let me down there, and he didn't let me down there. And
or you have to not dole out punishments if the person didn't actually have a chance to not do what they did.
Well, and not continuing, because too, you have to be able to forgive past disappointments and walk forward and not be looking for that to happen again, hopefully.
And not shame the person in front of kids.
Yeah, don't do that.
Because that happens way more than...
That's really bad. Don't do that, ever.
Happens way more than one would like to think.
Well, and I think that it really undermines the other parent. That doesn't mean that you have to... Like, we had a situation a few weeks ago where he was really mad about something. I was really confused. And he was, like, really mad, like, at kids. And again, I was, like, I felt like I was in the dark. But I didn't go, man, your dad, I can't believe him. I wasn't like that. I just turned to my kids and I was like, you know what? I'm not sure what's going on, but let's get to the car and we'll go from there. It was nothing to undermine him. It was definitely for me to go, okay, I must be in the dark about something, because he doesn't just like blow a stack about nothing. And they're looking like, I don't know what I did. And I really don't know what they did, because obviously I missed it. And so, you know, it was more about let's corral everybody and let's figure it out, rather than, man, your dad, I can't believe him. I can't believe he just yelled at you like that. Don't ever do that with your kids. You can say, I'm sorry that happened, but you can't undermine the other parent unless there is abuse going on. Then you can't undermine the other parent. And I guess that sort of walks into one of the topics we wanted to talk about, like discipline differences. And so we see this one a lot. Dad wants to spank maybe, and mom is trying to be an attachment positive parent.
Or one of us wants to take a privilege away, or...
Oh, you mean like in our situation, yeah.
Or not be lenient about something, or...
Yeah, because we're definitely not spanking people, but...
Or this is the boundary I set for this person, and... we don't agree, or
and it's a lot of it is just communication. Yeah. So usually if it's going to be something big, he'll say, hey, this is what I'm thinking about doing, or I'll say that, and we'll check in with each other if it's something big. But you don't have to check in with each other about everything. But you know, if one parent lays something down, the other parent's got to go along with it, unless, like I said, unless it's abusive, unless it's you know, you're looking at something that's going to harm them forever, or they're going to be in trouble for it, or, you know, there's very few instances where I would say undermine, even if you think they're being too harsh, because you need to let them, if you think they're being too harsh, you got to let the punishment sit. Then you have to powwow like when you're alone, and then you need to let the person who doled the punishment go back and say, hey, I was probably a little too harsh, but this is what the new punishment is, or because you don't want to undermine them. Otherwise, you're going to have a lot of trouble, especially after age 9, because those kids are looking for justice and they're trying to figure out where it's at.
And their siblings are looking for justice, even when
Constantly.
it's way more strict than is even appropriate. So you have to make sure that siblings stay out of those decision making.
Yeah,
processes.
we have a lot. Well, we have a lot of children, and so there's often like, no, he should be put to death.
It's like, what would make you happy? I take them outside and beat them. Well, I think that's probably
maybe
what they
so.
deserve.
Maybe that needs to happen. What if it was you? No. Yeah. So you have to be careful about that.
Yeah, because there's times where I've had older siblings step in and go, well, he's not.
And that can be, in some situations, it can be, like we have Ellie babysits. She gets paid for babysitting. All of our kids have always gotten paid for babysitting. But she won't be, like, stepping in then thinking she's wearing her babysitter hat when she shouldn't be wearing her babysitter hat. And so there are times when I got to go, I got this. Don't worry about it.
Well, it's like times where I go, well, that's not a big deal what that kid's doing. And it's like, do you see what he's doing? And it's like, yeah, but it's not a big deal.
Her radar
we need
is
to
way
do
different
something
than yours.
about this. It's like, well,
Ted's not holding the space. Yeah, so speaking of holding the space, how have you guys been doing? We want to hear from you. We want to see how you've been doing. We want to see how Dad's holding it. Dad, if you're confused about how Eric might hold it, ask. He's happy to share. And moms that are still learning how to hold the space, because I know that just because you're mom doesn't mean you're perfect at it. And so just because you've had more practice doesn't mean that you know how to do it really well. It takes time.
Oh, and to back up a little bit, one issue with the discipline differences to examine is what our childhood.
Oh yeah, so I think if we could
plays into things, and what might be baggage, or what if your parents were extra super strict and maybe attempted to not be so much, and then you go the other direction, or there's times where you've seen parents be really lax and then it caused problems with your siblings and you didn't like it, so you
so
overcompensate,
your
direction.
Parenting background started when you were a child,
or you realize that you're mimicking what your parents did,
right?
And that might be good or maybe not.
So I do think it's important to sort of discuss the one parent that wants to spank and one parent that doesn't. And so I think it's important to try to come to a happy medium. And when I say we're not spanking parents, that doesn't mean we've never spanked. In fact, most people who say they're not spanking parents, I only know of a handful of people who I believe and trust. Oh my gosh, there's a spider on the wall over there. That I would actually believe that said, no, we don't spank. There's only a couple of people that would believe that when they say that. But yeah. I think that it is important that if, spanking doesn't work, it can work in very extreme instances, but you can't use it on a regular basis in order to have it work. And so you want to save that if you ever are doing that. I mean, honestly, you really need to check your anger at the door and not be spanking, period. So you need to come up with other ways. Doesn't mean you can't restrain them. Doesn't mean you can't hold them on your lap and do a bear hug. Doesn't mean, in fact, those are very good ways to not want to spank. Most of the time, when you are frustrated enough to be wanting to spank, it is because you're not in check and you're not present. So you've got to get to a place to be present and, thought bubble. You have to get to a place to be present. And when you're in that place of being present, you can discipline that child so much easier than if you're really frustrated because they just won't let you be. So you've got to get down on their level. You've got to look at what their needs are. You have to be able to do that. When I think of personally of times that I've lost it and I've maybe doled out a paddle on the behind, it's definitely because I've lost it. I've not been centered. Now, the spankings the swats on the behind are nothing like the beatings I had as a child. I had full on, pants down, with a belt as a child, and no child should ever endure that. That's abuse. That's a beating. That is abuse. And you never had that though. Your dad would say, Eric never gave me any trouble. That's what your dad would say. He's just chill, you and his kid. But no, I mean, I think that you really have to examine that. And so I know a lot of couples have these differences where dad's like, he needs a spanking, and mom's like, no, he doesn't. And so you have to like realize the frustration and find that line, because you don't want to be permissive. And that's what's happening is I'm seeing moms that maybe they're in this attached land, and attachment parenting is awesome. I've been an attached parent for more than 20 years, and is an amazing place to be. And it really helps build bonds between you and your children. But really, it's about being present, and about being there, and about understanding, and about catching situations before they get to this place. So what is it that dad wants to spank about that you don't want to spank about? And is your kid really being a brat? If your kid's being a brat, you need to address it then. You know, you can't just address it by always just being a kid. You need to go, well, honey, I think maybe he needs to go for a walk. He's really fidgety, or he needs a snack, or so educate dad on the things that you normally would do during the day. And if you are like a raving lunatic yelling during the day, just so that you don't spank, honestly, there are times that I think a child would rather have a spanking than be yelled at. So really, the spanking thing, it just doesn't work though. As a spanking does not work. And so you really got to come to a place of helping children understand. And if you follow our other videos, our Waldorf Essentials with Melissa Nielsen videos, we're doing a series on the changes that happen every 3 years. And it's really important to understand the developmental stages of children so that you can, you're properly disciplining. Don't use too many words with a child under 4. Like, seriously, you need to show them. You want them to clean up their blocks? Don't scream, I told you to clean up these blocks. You get down on your hands and knees and you help them clean up the blocks. Come and help me clean up the blocks. You're doing it together. If you're having a child that's poking at another child, then that child needs to stand next to you for a little bit. Come on with me. You're going to help me in the kitchen. You know, there are ways to sort of separate so you're not using too many words for the very young, and so that you are understanding what their developmental need is. And then when they're older, like Soraya's 6, there are things that I expect of her at 6. When she frustrates me, I'm like, I cannot believe that we're having this discussion.
One reason that it's so important to be on the same page about those issues is because kids are opportunists.
Yeah, they are. If they see that
kids can draw a wedge between parents if in an attempt to get what they want.
Yeah, if you're constantly undermining dad because he's doling out a heavier punishment, and then you're trying to like give them mercy, it's really going to cause problems not just in your marriage but in your parenting later. You know, I had a client years and years ago. And her husband was her second husband. It was, so not the dad of the children that they were parenting together. They had one child together and 2 children that were not. And she said, I don't get it. He just disengages when it comes to the bigger kids. And I know they're not his kids, but, you know, I'd really try to make this family with them. And I remember asking her, so talk to me about how you let him discipline. She's like, well, I don't. I said, well, he doesn't feel like he has a role then. If you don't let him discipline at all, then he doesn't have anything to do there. If you don't let him sort of step in and be the dad, you can't expect him to be the dad. So you have to sort of allow that space to cultivate and allow those relationships to cultivate. And, you know, dad just needs to be able to be there with you. And so you got to have those conversations. You have to talk about discipline.
Well, because we've seen situations where the dad's completely shut out of everything. Sometimes the mom is very highly choleric and it's like, I'm just going to do everything.
Or she's a mom in management mode. Maybe she's melancholy and she's in management mode, or any other temperament. And she's like, well, he's not going to help me manage it, so I'm just going to manage it all.
Or she has a certain way she likes to do things, and it's easier for her to just do it the way she wants to do it than have her fuss at me because I might do it differently.
And really, if that's your situation, then you need to sort of step in there and say, honey, what can I do to help? And really, like, be there. Like, what can I do to help? I want to help. Please give me a task. I want to be on this parenting trip with you. Please give me a task. Please show me. Please help me. Yeah.
And one way that it was illustrated to me really early on about being on the same page with that kind of stuff was when we were first married, and your ex-husband was still involved in a parenting role, and they would go back and forth, and he kind of purposely would do the opposite.
He would. I mean, in whatever rule we had laid out, he would do the opposite.
But it showed me how much kids can be opportunists because they saw the places, where they might be able to get.
And they're not bad kids, but
No,
all kids are opportunists. That's what we
kids.
found. All kids are going to be like, oh, you're going to give me a cookie right now? Okay.
Well, even
all kids.
Even Sam was really chill. There's times where I go, the wheels are turning there, and I need to
stop it.
I need to give him a dose of reality. See, that's not how it works, So I mean, it's not that some kids are bad and they're gonna try to manipulate you.
That's either.
It's just that they're opportunists, and if they see a way that they might be able to go about something, they'll go about it. And if parents don't have it together, then they know. Kids are more aware of what's going on than
they are.
we think they are,
especially if they eavesdrop. We always have to look who's on the other side of the door. Samuel likes to listen.
I eavesdropped a ton as a
kid,
and I knew way more that was going on.
Cut out of your mold.
I knew way more was going on than my parents thought I knew.
Yeah.
And there's times where we're going on a walk, and Melissa and I are talking, and they get slower.
Yeah, because they want to hear what we're...
And the quieter we talk, the closer they get, and then we say, you walk ahead of 10 more feet, because I know what you're doing.
Yep. They're just silly. They want to know. And it's actually not so much Soraya, because she could care less. But Sam... he's inquiring minds.
He's collecting information.
Yes, he's a little inquirer. So yeah, I think that's everything on our list today.
Okay.
We did want to ask you guys, what do you want to hear us talk about? I'm assuming you guys are watching our videos, so if there are things that you guys are struggling with and you want to hear us talk about them, then just shoot me a PM or put a message here. If you don't feel comfortable putting it here, like I said, shoot me a PM, send Eric a message. We are happy to talk about it. If you've got struggles, we want to hear about your struggles, because that's what this is all about. This, like, leading this live is all about that. It's about us, being with you guys every week and helping you with your struggles and helping you sort of navigate those, and hopefully also helping you with your victories and being there to cheer you on with your victories as well. And so, I just want to know what y'all are doing.
And I might have a beard trim by next time, so you might not recognize me, but it's still me.
Yeah, he's not going to be the Zach Galifianakis guy. The guy next door at the grocery store, he's like, there's about 4 people in OB that look like your husband. Do you ever lose him? I'm like, no. So weirdest things people ask me? No, I don't ever lose him. So.
Well, then there's people that actually think I'm that guy.
Yeah, there are people that think he's that guy.
But I'm honest and tell them I'm not, but it's tempting to say that I am.
Yeah. Anyway. Southern California. It's a weird place to be, but we love it. So anyway, we hope you guys have a good week. And send us your questions. We're happy to answer them. Ready?